Hour number 3 on a Buffalo Football Monday. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and pleased to be joined now by the man who called the game for the NFL on CBS. It's play-by-play broadcaster Andrew Catalon, who you also might know from Bills preseason telecasts with Steve Tasker. And Andrew, you got home. I saw you on the elevator on the way down to the bowels of the stadium after the game last night, and you was like, all our flights got canceled. But you found a way out. You got back. You probably did better than a lot of Bills fans yesterday.
When I saw you in the elevator, Brownie, I was about a 10% chance, I'd say, I was going to get home. So this was a huge upset that I'm back home in New Jersey, and happy to be with you guys now.
Well, it's the second upset. You know, the Bills were heavily favored going into Miami, and we've been talking about it. We've been listening to taking calls from listeners. It just seems like they were flat. Just were not prepared emotionally to take on a Dolphins team that had a big chip on its shoulder, had a little something to prove, and really took it to the Bills at every level.
Yeah, Steve, I used the word gassed a lot yesterday when describing the Bills. I mean, whether it was flat, whether it was the heat, whether it was the Chiefs win, I think it's just a lot of things were against them, including injuries, which all teams have. It's not an excuse. But I did think you see something out of Miami where they may want to keep playing for Mike McDaniel. I thought that was one of my takeaways as well, how well they played for him. But when you just boil it down to the Bills, I thought the game changed when Dalton Kincaid got hurt. It didn't seem like there was a lot of offense after that point. But your broader point of a flat performance, I mean, it just looked like Josh was laboring out there throughout the game. These drives were taking a lot out of him. He had to do a lot more than he's had to do the past couple of weeks. And it was, a really surprising performance by Buffalo.
And perhaps, even more eye-opening is in the locker room after the game, you had veteran players, like Deion Dawkins and Dawson Knox saying they just played harder than we did. There were some other veteran players that took issue with that and said, look, we get paid a lot of money to come out every week and lay it on the line. So if you're not doing that, there's a problem. This is the second time we've heard players say this after down performances at Atlanta and now at Miami. This seems like a player-driven issue here that they've got to get corrected going forward.
Hey, interesting, Chris. It's not the same point, but we met with Sean McDermott last week and talked about how the culture that he's built has helped maybe overcome some of these injuries. This was obviously leading into the Miami game. And he called culture an invisible glue. And he said it's hard to really quantify what culture does, but there is an impact, although each week it may be different. And maybe this was the week that glue wasn't really there. I mean, it sounds like some of the stuff that you're saying and that we saw, they weren't all pulling in the same way and sticking together, if you will. So I'm not going to go too crazy on this loss. I know it's very disappointing. I look around the AFC. I mean, I watched the Ravens play the Vikings. I watched that game this morning. I mean, I don't see a dominant team out there, but obviously there's a lot that Buffalo has to get right going forward based off of yesterday.
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about, and in my experience as a player, I've said that, if you come out like that, like what we're talking about the Bills looking like against the Miami Dolphins, it's a player problem, not a coaching issue or something like that. Because my point has been, if you have to be fired up by a coach or a coaching staff, the coaching staff's got the wrong players. Players are really responsible for their own motivation. They're responsible to be prepared in the way that they need to play their best. And if they're not, it starts with them first. Certainly a coach can be inspiring, and a teammate can be inspiring to his fellow teammates, or an assistant coach. It can come from anywhere, but it's up to those players to make sure that happens. And in a game like yesterday, there's a lot in that. I mean, I've been a part of really good teams that were going in to play really bad teams and looked really bad doing it. It's hard to dredge up passion and really the desire to go out and get hurt, be hurt, and go through some pain and some discomfort in this game for a game you think you should win without doing that. That's really the crux to the whole issue. And that's a hard thing to sit here on a Monday and say, wow, we blew an opportunity.
Yeah, no, big time. I mean, look, my point about the Ravens was I think a lot of these teams have these ugly hiccups, and this was the Bills' really ugly hiccup. And I know you've got Atlanta as well, so that's now two that you point to. But I just think that these things happen in the course of a season. Should they happen? No. I mean, there's no excuse for what happened yesterday in Miami. But I think that we see that these things happen anyway. And now it's how the Bills bounce back from that. And I know they're going to be on the road a bunch coming up, and that's not going to be easy because we know they play so well at home. But I just feel like they laid an egg, and how they respond from it will be more important than in the big picture than this just one game. As much as it hurts today for a Bills fan on a Monday.
How do you look, Andrew, at the AFC conference now that we're midway through it? Obviously, the Colts have been one of the most consistent teams, although they won by the skin of their teeth yesterday in overtime to improve to 8-2. We know Denver has had some hiccups on offense, but they're 8-2, and the Patriots have ripped off, a series of wins here, including a nice one over Tampa on the road, the defending NFC South champs. But after that, it's largely a muddled puzzle here halfway through the season. Do you think anybody has the wherewithal to make a surge and maybe catch some of those teams at the top?
No, I think that's to my point, Chris, that it's really just wide open. I mean, I don't see a dominant team here on this list at all. I give New England a lot of credit. I was with them in Foxborough a week ago when they held on to beat Atlanta, and I'm impressed by their win yesterday. The Colts have figured out ways to win. I watched the Denver Raiders game last Thursday. Hey, 8-2 is 8-2. But are you telling me that these teams are going to go out and dominate the rest of the way? I think that there's still a lot of football left to be played, and that's why, from a Buffalo perspective, I think they're still right in that mix. There's things they have to correct. We've talked about some of them already today, and I'm sure the coaches are on that with the players. But I don't see a dominant team out here in the AFC, and I think home field will help, but it's not going to determine everything in the playoffs. And I think you can make a case for 7-8 teams in this graphic here, this wild card hunt, playoff hunt, that can make a case to win the conference. So I still think we're a long ways away.
Yeah, and as you come down the stretch, and the weather starts to turn. We're witnessing it here in Buffalo now. The weather starts to turn. Buffalo has had 4 or 5 home games that have been spectacularly good weather. Now, not so much. And Tampa Bay's coming into the building. What are your thoughts about the rest of the way this Buffalo team? What would you like to see from this team in Buffalo that maybe you've done them a couple of times this year? Where do you see their changes and their evolution headed?
Well, I think health has to be one of them. I mean, I think they're really banged up, and we saw some of that yesterday. I give Cam Lewis a lot of credit. I thought he played a great game for Taron Johnson, but, they're certainly thin defensively. And I think when Kincaid went out, and I mentioned it before, there wasn't a lot of offensive options out there. And I think these guys have to step up, and I think they will. I think there's enough talent here. I think Josh Palmer is a nice piece now that's been out 3 consecutive games. I mean, I think that'll help. They need these guys to step up. So I think health is number one. And, we had that shot yesterday on CBS of Sean McDermott pointing to his heart. And I'm not questioning their heart, but I think when you think about these Buffalo teams of the past and even earlier this year, that's one thing that comes to mind that maybe wasn't on full display yesterday. And I think as soon as they get back to that, that could go a long way to helping this team.
Andrew, where are you headed this week?
I've got the Ravens the next 2 weeks. They play in Cleveland this week, and then they're home for the Jets. Not the same team that the Bills saw in week 1, started 1-5, but now they've won 3 in a row. They made a couple of trades around the deadline. And in that division now with Pittsburgh losing last night, they're sitting in a really good spot. So curious to see how the Ravens keep putting it together here coming up against Cleveland on Sunday.
Yeah, just a game back of the Steelers now. That's crazy to think.
Stuff. Well, I guess congratulations are in order for getting home after what looked to be. I mean, we've all been there. If you travel at all, you start seeing flights get canceled. It's like, now what am I going to do? But hey, congratulations! I'm glad you're home, safe and sound.
I love how you guys asked me to come on after they lose a really disappointing game. I didn't get called after the Saints game that I did or any other time, just this one.
Yeah, well, we'll make a note of that for the next time we ask you to appear on the show, Andrew. Thanks for buoying everyone's spirits here on the show today. We do it a lot on Mondays after losses, so thanks for partaking in the therapy session. We appreciate it.
Anytime. Love you guys and hope to see you soon.